So do your body scan and remember the instructions if you're going to do the breathing meditation, or if you want to focus on Chenrezig, that's fine. Or if you want to contemplate some of the teachings from yesterday, that's also good. So you can choose, but choose one and then stay with it. So take a moment and contemplate how everything you have, everything you use on a day-to-day basis came from the efforts of other living beings. From food to clothing, everything came from others. There's no way we can really sustain our own life without the help of other living beings. So just ponder that for a moment. And think of all the people, the ones you know, and the millions that you don't know, through whose efforts and lives we receive what we need to stay alive. And have that feeling of closeness and of gratitude towards other living beings. And then aware that helping one sentient being helps others, and harming even one harms others, because we're so interrelated. And have a very strong wish never to cause harm to any living being in any way. Generate love, wanting them to have happiness and its causes, and compassion, to be free of dukkha and its causes. And then with an intention to act on that love and compassion, and generate the altruistic intention to become a fully awakened Buddha, to be able to do that most effectively. So in generating that determination not to cause harm to others, in any way, shape, or form, that doesn't mean that nobody else will experience pain from what we do. Okay? Because of people's minds, because of their own karma, even if we have a good intention, they may experience pain. Yeah. So we have to differentiate between others' pain for which we have some responsibility because of our own negative actions and rotten motivations, and others' pain that may come due to an action, influenced by an action we do, but that we certainly didn't intend for them and that we can't prevent. Yeah. Okay, so that's important. Otherwise, we take responsibility for things we can't do anything about and get quite confused about what benefiting others means. That's one thing. Then the other one, feeling this, how interdependent we are, with all this stuff about the tariffs, which went into effect at 12:01 this morning, we see that our world is so interdependent, and that, by the U.S. enacting tariffs, it's going to influence, have ripple effects all around the world. So there's going to be a lot of people in China that we don't know that are going to feel the results of this, and a lot of people in our country that we don't know that will feel the results of it. And of course in Mexico and Canada and Europe. So it makes me think of, how His Holiness always talks about how the ants cooperate together and thus the whole ant colony can thrive. And, how important that is for us as human beings to cooperate, so that it's the survival of the most cooperative. Because especially now we're so interdependent. And so there's, a lot of things that are not in our direct personal control anymore, but that we do have some influence over, maybe in a more indirect way. But the thing is to always have a positive state of mind and to be able to spread that to the people around us, and invigorate everybody to care about what's happening, not just to a small group of people, but to, everybody on the planet, including the fish and the birds and, even the mosquitoes. Because we're so interdependent It kind of blows my mind when I think of, just to like one thing that we use like this, just to make it. They were probably sending materials back and forth from here to other countries to another country, each place adding something and then things coming back together here from many sources, and then we have a microphone. It wasn't like the microphone from beginning to end was made by one or two people in one place. The parts are coming from all over the world. I was surprised when somebody explained to me, especially about making cars, how the things go from the U.S. to Mexico to China, back to the U.S., and all these different car parts and materials and things are just shifting around the world, in many different places to produce one car. And yet we get in the car and take off, and we don't even think of how many lives were involved and how many people's energy and effort were involved in making that car. We just look at it and, oh, it's a car and it's mine, and it gives me freedom to go where I want or whatever. But actually, there's a whole backstory to that car. And if we knew the stories of all the people's lives who were involved in making the different parts of the car and mining the materials and making the materials and so forth, I mean, it would just, the feeling of being interrelated and feeling gratitude to others would really be immense. So there's no time really for us versus them anymore. His Holiness, always says war is old-fashioned, and I think any kind of us versus them is basically old-fashioned. Really old-fashioned. Okay, so let's continue with the 4 immeasurables. I know I said I was going to get through the whole sadhana on the first day, but that isn't happening. So we'll just go with what is happening. So we talked about equanimity yesterday, and in the Pali tradition, they have a very nice way of putting the 4 immeasurables together as a way to approach other beings in our daily life, where all 4 fit in. And so it's to have love as our basic MO, the basic way that we greet other living beings is with loving kindness, okay? Not with suspicion, not with, who did you vote for and whose side are you on, and, are you going to harm me? It's, just to approach living beings with loving kindness, just friendliness. You can put it that way, a friendly, open, relaxed mind. Okay. Then so that's our basic way of relating to sentient beings. Then if we see others suffer, then compassion comes, wishing them to be freed from that dukkha, be it the, regular pain or the collapse of something that once gave them happiness, or just the whole situation of being under the influence of afflictions and karma. Yeah, and to wish, when we see people suffering, because everybody goes through difficulties in life. So instead of feeling pity, oh, you poor one, I'm so glad I'm not like you, to, really wish them to be free of that. So that's compassion. Yeah. So that's love, our regular way of just approaching people. Compassion when they go through difficult times. Joy when they're successful, when they have happiness. So to really rejoice at other people's good opportunities, at their happiness, at their virtue. Even rejoice that they're better than us. You're going to look at me and say, that's un-American. We're the best. And among we, it's me. Okay, I've got to be the best. No, just rejoice that there's other people who are better than us, because that gives us the opportunity to learn from them. Yeah. If we were the best, really, yeah, it would be difficult. Yeah? If I were the best, forget it, We wouldn't have water, we wouldn't have electricity, we wouldn't have anything. Yeah? I mean, even those of us who are sitting in this room, almost 50 people, could we, independent of other living beings, just the 50 of us, keep ourselves alive? Not at the present standard of living we have. Yeah. I mean, we don't work at the PUD, so forget having electricity. Yeah, maybe we could generate a little bit of it from there's a few solar panels on one roof, and that's about it. Our heating system and aircon system in Chenrezig Hall is broken. We don't know how to fix it. Actually, the company doesn't know how to fix it either. But we have some trust in them that they'll figure it out. Okay, so even, a number of people, 50 of us here, it would be difficult, to keep ourselves alive at our present standard of living. So to rejoice that there's people who are better than us, who have talents that we don't have. Yeah. Because we need those people. We depend on those people, don't we? Yeah, for everything. So then we might think, well, even in my field of expertise, I want to be the best. And I think this emphasis on being the best is quite unhealthy. Yeah, because first of all, what does best mean? Yeah, isn't it a rather subjective thing? What best means? In olden times, there used to be like one, maybe in a village of 30 people, one person who sang the best. And in another village, another person who sang the best. So you had many best singers. Now, with globalization, can anybody be the best everywhere? Yeah, that's kind of difficult, isn't it? And then even if you are the best, as we were talking the other day, we get anxious because we're not going to be able to uphold that. So to relax this competitive mind, and, we still have a motivation. We still work hard for things, but it's not for our own personal glory. It's for the benefit of all the beings, whom our life can influence. So when you go to work in the morning, don't just think, well, I'm going to work to get my paycheck, which is the biggest motivation, I think, why most people go to work. But to think, I'm going to work to offer service to society because there's other people, clients and customers and so forth, that will benefit from what I contribute. And I'm happy to contribute to their lives, even if they don't know my name, even if I'm not the best one. Yeah, I'm happy to contribute in whichever way I can because I know that it makes a difference. Yeah. So in that way, our mind relaxes, we do our best, and our mind we're able to rejoice at other people's talents and opportunities, and that relieves the pain of jealousy. Yeah, because jealousy is very, very painful, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, so that's love, compassion, joy. Love as our basic approach, compassion when people are having pain or misery, joy when they have success and happiness, and then equanimity when things are just, going along comparatively smoothly. Yeah. Okay, so that's one way to put the four immeasurables together as a daily way of relating to living beings. They also make the example of how to use these four in terms of like when you have a child. So this can be applied to adults too. It's the same kind of thing. But when you have a child, they're so cute. Yeah, most of the time. And yeah. And so love comes automatically for a child. Okay. When the child, falls and scratches their knee, or they're frightened, or somebody bullies them, or they get hurt, then compassion arises, wanting them to be free of that. As your child grows up and develops their own talents and abilities, then you have joy seeing them grow, become their own person, be a useful member of society. And then when they're adults and they can manage their own lives, you have equanimity, rather than meddling. Okay, you let them go and wish them well, and know that they're independent beings who may or probably may not make the same decisions that you do. Yeah. But you remain balanced, knowing that as a parent you did the best you could, given what the situation was. You gave your children, advice, you gave them skills, and then it's up to them to make decisions, and so you have to remain equanimous at that point. How many of you did exactly what your parents wanted you to do? Anybody here grow up to be exactly what your parents wanted you to be? Anybody? For a little bit, yeah. 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 You think your parents wanted you to be a Buddhist nun?
She said, "Oh, I'm happy when you're happy."
Oh, that's nice. Okay. Yeah. But for many of us, my parents didn't raise me to be a Buddhist nun, you know, and they didn't welcome it with smiling faces either. So I think, in many ways anybody else? Yeah, it's impossible to, children are their own beings. Yeah, so better to remain equanimous. We just received a prayer request from some of the Catholic sisters that we're friends with. And one of them asked us to pray for her family who have now disowned her and don't speak to her anymore because she doesn't agree with their Trumpian philosophy. And she said that her problem with Trump wasn't even about politics. She's a nun. It was his not following the golden rule. Yeah, and his lack of ethics, even based on the Ten Commandments. And yet, because she had her moral values and spiritual values that were so precious to her, that we also support, that her family got upset and won't speak to her. Actually, I don't know that the Buddha would even agree with do unto others as you want them to do unto you. Yeah. Or is it as we want them to do unto us, or is it we would do to ourselves? Okay, so there seems to be many versions of the golden rule. Okay. But, kind of sometimes it comes out as care for the others the way you care for yourself. And, from a Buddhist viewpoint, we would say care for others more than you care for yourself. Because when we have the self-centered thought that cares for ourself and only ourself, we actually cause ourselves misery. Yeah? Does that make some sense to you? Yeah, when we act only out of our own self-interest, things often go badly. Because other people don't want to cooperate with us. That's one thing. And another thing is when we care only about ourselves, then everything in our life becomes about ourselves. And then things that would not be problems to us if we had a big mind and cared about others become problems because we have a small mind that's only caring about this person. So, for example, the self-centered mind is what makes us so incredibly ego-sensitive, so that we see everything everybody does in terms of how it's meant for me. Yeah. So even something simple like all the dishwashers, please come after lunch promptly to help wash dishes. A general announcement like that becomes, oh, they're talking about me. I was a minute late yesterday. They're angry at me because I wasn't there to wash the dishes on time. Oh no, now these people are mad at me. How dare they be mad at me? I was only 1 or 2 minutes late, actually 5 or 10, but it's almost the same. But why are they so like that? And you see, something that wasn't even meant for us gets taken personally. And then, we get all bent out of shape and spend hours ruminating about something that doesn't even apply to us. And that's the effect of the self-centered thought. Yeah. So that's why I say maybe it isn't so much, care for others the way we care for ourselves. Let's care for others better than we care for ourselves. And let's care for ourselves better than we care for ourselves right now. Yeah. Because lots of times we do things that we know aren't good for ourselves. And we keep doing them. Yeah? You keep smoking, you keep eating unhealthily, you keep hanging out with people who you know it's not good for you to hang out with. Yeah? So we should treat other living beings better than we treat ourselves, and treat ourselves better too. Yeah. Yeah. We should take care of ourselves in a way that's really taking care of ourselves, not just indulging our attachments.
One of the things I learned years ago from some friends of mine who were in classes or races that were discriminated against is that they needed something very different than I did. Mm-hmm. And so they really helped me see the fallacy in the golden rule, because what I need in a situation as someone who's privileged is very different than what they needed in that same situation when I could let go of my privilege and see it from their viewpoint. Yeah. And they were really great teachers to me in that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. So each of the four immeasurables, has what they call a near enemy and a far enemy. So a near enemy is something that we could easily mistake to be that one of those four. Yeah, so it's a near enemy. It's near. It seems like what we have, but it's actually not so good. And then the far enemy is the opposite of what we have. So for love, love is just the wish for beings to have happiness and its causes. No strings attached, The near enemy is clinging attachment. Okay? You're special to me, so I want you to be happy in these ways. Yeah. So especially we see romantic love. I want you to be happy, but it has to be with me. Yeah. I don't want you to be happy with somebody else. You have to, I want you to be happy, but it has to be with me. Okay? So when there's clinging attachment involved, instead of genuine love, then things get very sticky, because we're wanting and needing something from the other person. We have expectations on them, and so it may look like love because we take care of somebody and we help them. But it's a near enemy because the motivation is skewed. Yeah. And then when that person doesn't appreciate us or doesn't say thank you, or doesn't clean their room, or doesn't, point out all of our good qualities, then, our fondness for them, Whereas with a genuine love, the fondness stays the same no matter how they treat us. Yeah. So this is one quality that they talk about why the Buddha is a good object of refuge for us is that he doesn't care how we treat us. You know, the Buddha has love and compassion simply because we're sentient beings. He doesn't care whether we make offerings and sing praises and follow his instructions or do the opposite. Yeah. So from the Buddhist side, the love and compassion come steadily. Of course, from our side, yeah, we have to do something to make ourselves receptive vehicles. Okay, so that's why we make offerings and talk about the Buddha's good qualities and try and implement the teachings, you know, because we have to do our side of the bargain. It's like the radio can be broadcasting, or from the radio channel is broadcasting, but if our radio isn't turned on, yeah, we're not going to hear anything. Okay, so that's the near enemy for love. The near enemy for compassion, yeah, which wants sentient beings to be free of dukkha and its causes. The near enemy that seems like it could be compassion, but it really isn't, is personal distress and worry, you know, about somebody else. So with personal distress, yeah, we're more focused on the pain we experience by seeing somebody else suffer than on what their experience is. So we want them to be free of suffering so that we aren't distressed by their suffering. Okay, so I think this comes a lot in euthanasia. Yeah, especially when we euthanize pets, you know. I mean, we adore our pets and we don't want to see them suffer. But when we see our cat or dog or pig or bird dying, you know, it's so painful to see them suffer that we want to put them out of their suffering because we can't bear seeing them suffer. Okay? Do you see why this is a near enemy? It looks like compassion, but it's actually to eliminate our suffering. Mm-hmm. So in the same way, another near enemy of compassion is worry. We want somebody to be free of suffering, yeah, but then we worry about them, yeah, and we think worry is an indication of how much we care. And sometimes when we don't worry about somebody, we doubt ourselves and say, I'm so hard-hearted. I don't care about that person. As if worry equals care. Okay? Does worry equal care? Think about it. When somebody worries about you, did their worry benefit you and alleviate your suffering? Yeah, we've all had people worry about us, right? For example, our parents used to worry about us when, well, maybe now, but also especially when we were young. Did your parents or grandparents or whoever took care of you, did their worry help you? No. Did it cause you distress? For me, it did. Yeah. My parents' worry was very uncomfortable. Okay. It looks like you have something. You want to say something about that? No. Okay. Um, yeah. So worry is not the same thing as compassion. And it can produce the total opposite effect of what we want. Yeah. Another near enemy of both love and compassion, I would say, is trying to control other people. We want them to be happy. We don't want them to suffer. Oh, I see. It's ringing a bell, huh? Um, yeah. We try and control them. Yeah. If we flip the situation, does other people trying to control you benefit you? Does it alleviate your suffering and give you more happiness? No. It actually causes more suffering, doesn't it? Okay. So that's why it's a near enemy of love and compassion. Yeah. So, sometimes people come to me and they say, this relative is ill, or my friend is ill, and I'm not worried. And now I'm worried that I don't care about people enough, that I'm very hard-hearted. And, I say, no, worry is not the same thing as caring about somebody.
Yeah, I'm really grappling with that. Like personally, I just feel like I'm sort of hard-hearted. Like I don't care about these people because I'm not worried sick about them. So I don't know. I mean, that's a toughie.
Yeah, because I think often because of the way we're raised, with this kind of skewed notion, sometimes in our families or in our cultures. I mean, the culture I grew up in, worry, was a sign of how much you cared for somebody. And I'm going, So I told you I grew up Jewish, and at Passover there's, the Jews are fleeing from imprisonment, and there's a song, "Let My People Go," and it's like, let me go, because this worry, the controlling, all done because they confuse it with love and compassion. Yeah. Okay. So caring is, of course we care. When there's something we can do, we do it. When there's nothing we can do, then why worry? Because worry doesn't benefit the situation. It only harms the situation. Yeah. So giving up worry doesn't mean we don't care. Okay. It just means we're being practical. Yeah. But I think, we grew up in cultures and families where, worry equals love. And does that ring true for some people in your family, in your culture?
How about the impulse to fix things? Because that's another thing that in my mind I equate with caring, is that if I see an issue, then of course the worry and the personal distress come up. And then there is this almost unstoppable impulse. I have to do something about it. Yeah. I have to fix it. I have to tell them what to do. I have to go in there and get my hands dirty.
It's controlling other people, isn't it? Yeah. When we want to fix their problems, we're trying to control them. Yeah. Aren't we? Aren't we?
I don't think that.
You don't think so? Really?
Yeah, I can't quite get there yet.
about it. Somebody has a problem. Yeah, your child has a problem. Okay? As a parent, if you have a child who's an adult and they do not ask you for advice, yeah, and they want to be independent, does your giving unwanted advice and trying to fix their situation, does that help them grow into a responsible adult? Or does that make them dependent on you? Yeah? Okay. So, as a parent, you as your child grows up, you need to give them more and more responsibility. And just as we learn through our mistakes, they will learn through their mistakes. Yeah. Didn't you learn, hopefully, through some of the mistakes you made growing up? And without those mistakes, we wouldn't have learned. And if our parents were always helicopter parents, fluttering around us, wanting to control everything, then we're going to grow up to be babies. We won't know how to run our own life and make decisions. Yeah. So I think, as children grow up, gradually, not all at once, of course, give them more and more responsibility, and especially, when they're at an age where they should learn to be responsible. I mean, if you're old enough to drive a car, you should be old enough to, know how to take care of the car. Yeah? If you're old enough to vote, you should be old enough to, hopefully manage your own money. Because managing your own money and having money to manage is going to be related to voting, who you vote for, and so on. Okay? So I look at these Parkland kids, who after the massacre at their school are standing up and saying, we want to change things. Yeah. Their parents are helping them, but they're the voices and they're the chief ones. And I thought, wow, look at that. Look at what they're doing from their own accord, being responsible not only for their own welfare, but really considering the welfare of all the students in the country. Yeah. And they're not just, hanging around doing silly things. They do some of that too, I'm sure. That involves in being a teenager. But, they're growing up and being responsible, and I really respect that. Yeah. And I wonder, after this, sorry, I can't help but talk about things. After the shooting at the Annapolis newspaper, have you heard anybody comment about guns? No. Nobody's comment about the prevalence of guns. We're back to prayers and thoughts. And I thought, these kids are much better than the adults. Because these kids want to prevent future tragedies. And the adults are, this is normal now. Somebody walks in with a gun and kills 5 people at a newspaper. Yeah, what else? That's Monday's news. Who got killed Tuesday? Yeah, just the apathy. Okay. So, so that I'm going to come back from my tangent. But to me, Dharma relates to everything in our life. Okay? So, okay, then for equanimity, then joy. Yeah. The the near enemy of joy is giddiness and being overly excited about somebody's, it's usually somebody we're attached to, somebody's success, Like, oh, my son got a promotion, my daughter got into medical school, oh, they both met really nice people that they're going to get married to and divorced from later. But right now I can be happy. Yeah, so kind of this giddiness and overexcitement. Yeah, that's the near enemy for joy. And for equanimity, it's just like apathy. Yeah, indifference, apathy. Aren't indifference and apathy the same? Like, yeah, I don't care, So, I have equal-hearted indifference towards everybody. I don't really care about anybody. Okay, so those are the near enemies. Then the far enemies are going to be the opposite. So the opposite of love, you're going to have anger and hatred, The opposite of compassion, you're going to have cruelty and revenge. The opposite of joy is jealousy. And the far enemy of equanimity is just like boredom, I think they say. Huh? Oh, yeah, partiality, duh. Yeah, attachment, anger, and partiality are the opposite of equanimity. Okay, so again, I find this kind of thing very helpful to contemplate in analytic meditation. Really thinking about, so I can be clear in my own mind. What is loving somebody and what is the near enemy clinging attachment? And what is the far enemy? Anger, And then go through all four. And then, really look in my own experience. Can I identify, when there's, for example, compassion, wanting somebody to be free from dukkha, and when there's just personal distress, and when there's cruelty and revenge. Yeah. So for each one, thinking about the near enemy and far enemy, and again, in terms of our own personal experience, so that I can identify things in my own mind, and so that I can also see what I need to work on. Because maybe if I have a lot of personal distress, what I need to work on is really understanding what compassion is and cultivating compassion. How do I cultivate compassion? Yeah, two main things. One is to think of others' dukkha, or their suffering, and second is to think of their kindness, so we feel involved in their lives. Okay. So this comes back to what you were saying. Being involved in somebody's life is not the same thing as fixing their problems. Yeah. We're involved, we care, but we're not jumping in to control and to manage and to basically try and make somebody be what we want them to be, even though we don't like when other people try and make us be what they want us to be. Yeah. No, we work on it day by day. Yes, it's long term, it takes a while to change, and we work on it each day.
I would like to respond to that. Many years ago in the 80s, I had a friend that she was taking child how you say that?
Pregnant?
No.
She was caring for children.
Yeah.
What? Foster children.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And she was telling me that they were walking her and that little girl by a train tracks, old tracks, and the little girl got her foot stuck. And right away, I go and help her to get out. She didn't do that. She was with her, but she let that little girl figure out how to remove her foot. And it always stayed with me. And it's important to know what are your stuff. Your stuff, my stuff, your stuff, your stuff. Because that's what we're saving. It's me. It's not the little girl. It's me. This is what I'm saving. Mm-hmm. And I really felt in my heart how she was empowering that little girl.
Yeah.
She was giving her the power to figure it out. And that's really helpful in life.
Yeah.
To be able to take care of ourselves. So it's about us.
Yeah.
My own stuff. Why I'm so triggered to see that and insecure. It's my own insecurity. That's
yeah. Of course, if a train were coming, I'm sure she would have grabbed the child. Yeah.
Do you know what is a train, girl?
Yeah, but that's a very good story, very good example. Yeah. Yeah, that little girl learned something, and felt empowered too.
I wanted to mention one time when you taught these four immeasurables from the Pali Canon, when you talked about equanimity, the way you taught it has been continually helpful for me, which was instead of like not meddling when things are going well, it was the reverse. When things weren't going well for someone, and actually they aren't receptive to your help,
yes,
then you keep your mind equanimous. And this has been so helpful for me in my life because it gives me the feeling of there's something I can do. I can keep my mind away from attachment, away from anger, and try to clear out the indifference.
Yeah.
And then when the situation changes, then you're actually in a position to help. Whereas if you don't do that with your mind, when they change and are ready, you're like gone. You're not available.
Yeah.
And this has been extremely helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another part of equanimity. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, is, when people are not receptive to help, then in your heart you still stay involved, you still care, but you back off and you keep equanimous. Instead of getting angry at them, I'm trying to help you. I have all this good advice. Why don't you listen to my good advice? Why are you being so rebellious? And, Yeah, but just, okay, that person's not ready to listen at this point. I back off. I stay equanimous. And then hopefully that person will mature over time. And because of us being equanimous and keeping the door open, then they'll be able to come back. And then hopefully we can be of more benefit at that time. Or maybe they've just learned what they need to learn and we don't need to benefit them. But still, the relationship is intact.
I have really shared a story with this kindness of other people. When I escaping from Tibet, when we arrived very top of the mountain, Himalaya mountain, then we used to snow so many days for drink and for food. And then that caused my gastric. And then for 3 or 4 days, I couldn't eat any food. And then I told my friend, all of my group, we have 12 people. I told them, please left me here. Now I was thinking, now I'm going to die. Then please, you guys go. But they didn't go. They wait me, and then they all the way went down and find some firewood, and then they made warm water very secretly, and then they wait me. I still remember always their kindness.
Yeah.
You know, they saved my life.
Yeah.
If they left me, I was frozen.
Yeah. 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 Very good story. Yeah. Yeah. So that's compassion, isn't it? Yeah. And it was doing what was needed at the right time.
These teachings help to override old stories, such as I had an experience where my mother had incredible pain and we had to call the emergency. And I was not worrying and just waiting for the emergency. And my stepfather, he was very angry and he kind of expected me to worry a lot. And so, and he was saying that worrying doesn't help anything. I remember the story, I think you told it, by Lama Yeshe. There was a nun, she came out of her cave, she had a big boil or something on her cheek.
Uh-huh.
And, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And Lama Yeshe came by, I think it was him, and he just rejoiced because he was so happy that her karma ripened.
Yeah. Yeah, let me tell the story. So I had a friend who was a nun, and yeah. And so she was doing retreat, and one day at break time she was walking around at the monastery. Is it loud enough now? Yeah. And she encountered Lama Yeshe, and she had a big boil, on her cheek. And Lama said, "How are you?" And, "Oh, Lama, look, I have this big boil." She was a little bit of a whiner. And, she had a reason to whine here, but, I have this big boil. And Lama said, "Fantastic." Well, as Lama pronounced it, "Fantastic." "This is wonderful. You have a boil." And she's like, and then he said, "Oh, you're in retreat. You're purifying. Your negative karma ripened, in this form of this boil. And now that karma is finishing. You're done with it. So you should be very, very happy." Yeah. But this is, a real life teaching on mind training. The Lojong are mind training teachings, how you take a bad situation and you flip it in so that you see it as a good situation. Yeah. So it's very good, even from the smallest pain you have to something big, if you can train your mind just immediately, "Oh, it's good that happened. Yeah, I fell down. Oh, that's good." That doesn't mean you have to go around and deliberately fall down. Okay, please don't. Yeah. Or I stubbed my toe. Yeah, it's like, that hurt. Good. The pain is the result of my own negative karma. Now that's finished. Okay, somebody called me a name. Somebody accused me of something I didn't do. That's painful. Fantastic. Yeah. Yeah, it's a ripening of all the time when I criticized other people and put them down. And what's a really good thought training one for this when you get criticized is not only say, "This is fantastic," but it's like, this is going to reduce my arrogance. Yeah. Then we say, "Oh, yeah, I am a little bit arrogant, huh?" And here somebody criticized me, somebody accused me. Okay, arrogance, you're going to go down. This is good. If you're a Dharma practitioner, then having your arrogance go down is something really good. It's something you want. Yeah. So you have to really have a Dharma mind to apply these thought training techniques. Otherwise, it seems like masochistic, you know. You accuse me of doing something I didn't do. Now, who do you think you are? And you can't do that. Now I'm going to put you in your place and blah, 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 blah. And then we tweet at 3 o'clock in the morning. Okay. Every morning we tweet, you know, for all the people who didn't treat us properly. Yeah. And yeah. And that doesn't help us at all, does it? We just create negative karma from being angry. We encourage more quarreling with other people. I mean, it's just read the newspaper. You see it. It's just, I mean, nobody reads the newspaper. Just look at the news on your, whatever it is, you know, the extension of your hand. But there it is. You know, you see, yeah, you get irritated, insulted, offended, you retaliate. Then, what good does it do? Yeah. It actually keeps more people focused on what you did. Yeah. It doesn't let the thing just go away. Whereas if you said, okay, somebody criticized me, that's fantastic. Yeah. It's going to make me more humble. I'm going to understand how other people feel now. I'm not going to go around with my nose in the air. Yeah. Or my hair in the air. You know? Sorry, I can't restrain no. This is a caricature, you know, but I'm trying to make it real in a way. You know, and just to see, yeah, it's good I get put in my place sometimes. Yeah? A little bit of humility was good for me. Yeah, help me understand other people's lives, good for me. Okay, so then these thought training practices are very powerful that way. Then, you know, whatever you encounter in your life, you can deal with. You're not going to flip out. Yeah, so very useful. Yeah, because I think, you know, when I've asked, most people have more mental pain than physical pain. Is that true for you? How many of you have more mental pain than physical pain? Yeah. So the thought training teachings, mind training teachings, are very good for all that mental pain. Because mental pain is just thoughts. It's just caused by thoughts. It's nothing real. You can't even touch it. It's just caused by thoughts, by how we look at the situation. Yeah? And so that's the beauty of the Buddha's teachings, is the Buddha's showing us so many different ways to look at situations so that we don't have to suffer unnecessarily.